Hello world, it's Wednesday, 28th. Let's talk plant containers for a second. We're going to compare square versus round 4-inch containers. To get the best bang for your buck, the most soil for your seed, you just need to know that all containers are not equal, alright? They do not provide the same amount of soil space for your plant as you would think. Now, I have done the math for us. Here's a little diagram of the maths. If you would prefer to try to figure it out yourself, you can pause it and good luck. I made lots of errors because maths is not my strong suit. Now, let's go ahead and start with this. This is what I start seeds in, okay? It is considered a 2-inch container. This is 2 inches wide. At the narrow part of the tapered shape, it's 1 inch. Now, the total volume, after you go calculate the truncated square pyramid of this shape right here, is 4.67 cubic inches. Okay? Now, these are both 4-inch containers. It's pretty obvious, when you look at it, that this one is bigger than this one, yes. But how much bigger, right? How much more soil does it actually include? Or is it capable of holding? Numbers don't lie, unless you read my first number, is 27.44 cubic inches of space. This right here has a dimensions of 4 inches wide, opening at the top. It is 3¼ inches tall, and the lower opening is 2½ inches wide. The 4-inch square container gives us a total of nearly 50 cubic inches, almost double that of the round. The height is ½ inch taller at 3.75 and quite a bit larger in diameter, or rather edge to edge, at 3¼ Now, they're both tapered, as you can see. 3¼ at one side, 4 here, 2½ at one side, 4 here. Just those numbers alone immediately let us know that one's bigger than the other, right? But it's a lot of fun just to kind of do the math to figure out exactly how much bigger. These containers are nearly the same price. So if I could get these in bulk, in hundreds of packs, I would, because it's nearly double the amount of soil. What that means when you're growing seed is that you have to transplant less later. If this number were to represent how soon you have to pot up or transplant out of this to something else, it would give us a good idea that the larger the better. I mean, honestly, if I could, I'd plant all my seeds in giant containers like this. I would size the container to be exactly as big as it needed to be in the future, so that I would never have to deal with transplanting or boxing up or whatever you want to call it. Now, that gives us just the basic information on the containers, right? Just the volume itself tells us exactly how much bigger it is. But what's that look like comparatively? This is the bottom trace of a 4-inch round container. This is the bottom trace of a 4-inch square container. As you can see, the 4-inch fits quite a bit within the 4-inch square. Sorry, the 4-inch round fits quite a bit within the 4-inch square. Now for the tops, the same is said. However, the edges meet perfectly because they're both 4-inch containers, okay? Now, if you look at the shape, however, you'll see that the round, even though it's a 4-inch diameter circle, has less available soil space than a 4-inch square box does. That's because of this relationship here. If you want to look it up, it's a circumscribed versus an inscribed circle, meaning that a circle either fits within a square or a square fits within a circle. That being said, another thing that I like about this is that it immediately shows you kind of packing efficiency, right? Like if I have a whole bunch of these circle containers together, all this space right here is wasted, or rather has no soil. So we can see that if we choose square, the amount of space wasted from one cell to the next is extraordinarily minute. This matters in things like when you're doing seedling trays. Go ahead and try to stack 200 round containers in a conventional 20-inch tray. It's very difficult. You only get a few compared to the cubes. Now, just for giggles, I got one of these, which is considered like a large starter pot for like cucumber and watermelon seeds and such. It's not quite 4-inch, it's a 3-inch container. Dimensions are, it's a 2-inch bottom, 3-inch top, and the height is 2.75. That ends up giving us about 17.5 cubic inches for this small pot. So that would put it exactly where you would think in this lineup is in between the tiny one and the 4-inch pot. However, would you think, just from looking at these two side by side, that this is nearly twice the volume of this container? I don't think you would do that. My gut instinct is that your brain would tell you they're roughly the same volume. Yes, one is barely taller than the other, but that much distance in a circle makes a lot of volume for soil, So, there you have it. Square container versus a round container. Both says 4-inch. What's better for your plants? You be the judge, but I personally say the square, because you get a very large amount of soil comparatively. Now, if you're able to find a 4-inch pot that were equal in height, this is 3 1/4, this is 3.75, so if you were to find a pot that was just half an inch larger, it would be much, much closer, and the difference may be negligible. However, most 4-inch pots are just marketed just like that, 4-inch pots. A lot of the dimensions are missing for some reason, and they're hard to obtain, so you can do the math if you want, but just more of a fun exercise to figure out, they both are labeled 4-inch. Which one should I be buying for my plants? Now, if you're talking pocketbook, well, this plastic's a little better than this one, and so these cost a little bit more. And so you'll have to be the judge in that. So this is supposed to be one versus the other. So let's talk about the actual differences for just a second, outside the fact that, the volume number is different between the two. They are not exact direct comparisons, okay? The main thing was, if you buy a 4-inch round container and you buy a 4-inch square container, as close as you can, what's the difference? Now, outside of the number, what would I choose? I try to grow a lot of seedlings here, and I have both. So, my answer is all of them. After knowing the difference in numbers, I would lean towards the square containers in the future. However, these round pots that I was able to find for transplanted azaleas are very thin plastic, you can see that, and they're super cheap. For me, being a cheapskate, price wins out, okay? Seeds are not that expensive for me personally that I have to go out and select a container that will give them the ultimate best chance in their lifetime at the cost of my wallet, essentially, right? So for the benefit, I guess, that I could get from buying all these compared to ones just maybe a little bigger than this, it's not really worth it for me. However, that's just currently. If I were to go for like a full-on nursery business or what have you, where I'm talking about stocking thousands of these things and using them as part of a business as opposed to just gardening or just, farming on a small scale, you might want to lead towards this. Why? Because you start thinking about your time. Do I really have time to go back and repot up like 5,000 plants or whatever nurseries would go through? Like a ridiculous number. I mean, if I as a hobbyist gardener / farmer person can have 400 seedlings, I imagine that an actual nursery has in the thousands, right? And so when you start thinking about time as a factor in this, it becomes worth it. Because, again, if we're talking about this number as kind of like a time frame for how long a seedling can live in here before you need to get it something bigger, this would win out. Also, I'm a huge fan of packing efficiency, okay? I really like the fact that you can put squares right next to each other. All right? And sadly, they haven't come out with like odd ellipsoid containers that you can just drop in a container and have them auto pack, right? This is not peanut M&Ms. Now, that's about all I got for square versus round, It's kind of a basic thing that can become very complex. Why would you prefer square versus round? I'm curious. Doesn't even matter?